What's like it?
Good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome to today's webinar on the opportunities for young emerging ADR professionals. My name is Susie Elizabeth Navuko, and I will be the moderator for today's session. And just to give a background of myself, I am a junior associate at Ngoro Mutebi Advocates and a member of the Young Members Committee, SIAB, Uganda chapter. So before I introduce the speakers, I would like to invite our chairperson to give the opening remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to welcome you all to this important webinar hosted by the Young Members Committee of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, Uganda chapter. As chairperson, I'm thrilled to see a number of young professionals already gathered here today to explore the promising world of alternative dispute resolution. I hope I'm very audible. Okay, thank you. Our theme for today, opportunities for young emerging ADR professionals, couldn't be timelier. Today, we have seen, for example, for us here in Uganda, the judiciary has released its annual performance report for the financial year 2023-2024, which shows an average disposal rate of cases of just 59.67 by the judiciary. However, if you go to the granular data, you'll see that the High Court, for example, only has a disposal rate of 38.55%, and the Court of Appeal has a meager 7.51%, and the Supreme Court with a disposal rate of just 10.77%. And again, if we are to go into the granular data, this does not even account for how much time it usually takes to actually dispose of a case, and neither does it account for the resources expended in a process or even the loss of business relations in the litigation process, which are very key for businesses to go on. And this is very important because we are in an era where ADR, alternative dispute resolution, is gaining prominence globally, offering faster, more flexible, and cost-effective means of resolving disputes. For us as young professionals, this field provides and presents incredible opportunities to carve out meaningful careers while playing a critical role in justice, delivery, or even dispute resolution. Additionally, whereas certain ADR mechanisms, for example, arbitration, are international in nature, there is also a great challenge posed when disputes between African parties are often exported to be resolved in European capitals. And this we've seen There's a number of construction projects, for example, where once there's emergence of a dispute, and that dispute is resolved elsewhere, yet the primary performance of a contract or primary performance of the duties under the contract was here in Africa. But we can account for this to be maybe, say, largely due to a lack of a critical mass of people who are competent in ADR. And therefore, there is a massive need for young professionals from different industries to engage in ADR training and ADR activities and ADR in general, so as to develop this critical mass that is necessary for the Africanization of dispute resolution, if I can call it that. Today, we'll explore key opportunities in arbitration, mediation, education, and other ADR mechanisms. You will hear from young professionals like you from Uganda, that is from our committee. We have a number of the panelists and a moderator from our committee, but then you'll also hear from young professionals from our friends at the Kenya branch and the Zambia branch who are navigating this landscape. Our aim is to provide practical insights into the skills, networking, and strategies necessary to thrive in this field of ADR. This webinar is not just about listening, but engaging, asking questions, forming connections that can fuel our growth, your growth in these dynamic professions. I encourage all of you to seize this opportunity to learn and contribute. I also encourage all of you to seize this opportunity to be part of the Young Members Committee and to be part of all its activities, most especially those that we are going to roll out starting next year. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to an insightful and productive session. I think let's begin it. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. That's all I had to say.
All right, thank you very much, Charles. And just before I delve into the introduction of all the speakers that we have for today, I would like to ask our audience to please get involved, ask questions as we go on, and we'll also reserve a few minutes for questions at the end of the session. The chat feature on the Zoom will be open throughout today's session, and we'll encourage each and every single person attending to participate, ask any questions. So we are very excited to bring you insights from 3 outstanding experts in the field of ADR, each of whom will be sharing their unique perspectives on how young professionals can thrive in this dynamic sector. For our very first speaker is Moleva Joseph Chitupila. He is currently the chairperson of the CIAB YMC Zambia branch, and he is a partner at Jill and Safe Advocates, an advocate of the Superior Courts of Zambia, Notary Public, and Commissioner for Oaths. He has practiced law for over 15 years, and his practice areas are essentially commercial litigation, corporate advisory, and ADR with a particular concentration on arbitration. He holds a master's degree in taxation from the University of Pretoria and a bachelor's of law degree from the University of Zambia. He is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, and he also holds membership with the Law Association of Zambia, the African Construction Law, and the Africa Arbitration Association. You're welcome, Joseph.
Thank you, and good to be on board.
The second speaker that we have for today's section is Edgar Alema. He's the vice chairperson of the Young Members Group of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators Kenya branch. He's also an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, currently practicing as an associate at Professor Albert Muma and Company Advocates, a law firm based in Nairobi, Kenya. He's an arbitrator and a mediator, having practiced as both counsel representative and a third party in both domestic and international disputes. And he is a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators Kenya branch, the Law Society of Kenya, the Young London Arbitration Group, a special interest group of the London Court of International Arbitration, and the Young International Council for Commercial Arbitration. You're welcome, Edgar.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is Amina Nasazi. She's the vice chairperson of the Young Members Committee of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, Uganda branch. And she's a seasoned quantity surveyor with over 10 years of experience in quantity surveying. And she's currently working as a project manager and the quantity surveyor at Quantmetrics Consultancy Limited. She holds a bachelor's degree in quantity surveying from Makerere University and a postgraduate degree in construction management from the University of Nairobi. You're welcome, Amina.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Okay, so we are here in respect to the topic for the opportunities for young emerging ADR professionals. And the very first question that we would pose to our speakers is for you to share your journey into ADR and what inspired you to actually pursue this career path. If we can begin with Joseph, that would be helpful.
Hi, Elizabeth. Thanks again. And thanks for having me on board. And good afternoon to our audience. So my journey towards ADR, or at least the career path towards ADR, has been one that has been, I guess you'd say, slow and gradual. And unlike certain people, certain other beginnings, mine didn't start from the the academic side of things, where in your university you focus quite a bit on ADR, either in your master's degree or your dissertation. My experience of ADR started largely after my admission to the bar, and I think that must have been in year 1 or 2, when I then had an interaction with a client matter, which required the resolution of an arbitration clause. So was this arbitration clause valid? Was it enforceable? So then I went down this route of research in terms of what is arbitration, what are arbitration clauses, when are they enforceable, when are they not enforceable. So then that sort of put me down that path of it, trying to find out more about it. And then at the time of my practice, which was in the dispute resolution, so then I got more and more involved in arbitration. So like you then get more matters where you're looking at arbitration clauses or giving your opinions on arbitration clauses. And then that sort of evolved into then acting as a party representative in arbitration disputes. And then obviously party representative now means, you're going into the full scale of arbitration in terms of a dispute has arisen. You're looking into the merits of your client's case, the demerits, your appearances before an arbitrator. And so, the more I got deeper into that, the more then the interest into, in this case, I'll just start with arbitration, into what arbitration is. So then you're looking into it and then you're seeing, okay, we are appearing before an arbitrator, and, you have to comply with an arbitrator's orders for directions, the rules around arbitration. So then that sparks it more interest in me. And at a certain point, and then I'm looking at it and then wondering, okay, this is a field which is a bit of interest at the time. And then, so I then wrote down a few months, years down, you then pick up your first training, which would be, in this case, was my introduction to domestic arbitration. So that I could get a better understanding of what arbitration is and what's involved in it. And then after that, obviously, there's continued practice around, more sittings in terms of arbitration sittings as a party representative, which then obviously at a certain point I looked at it and I thought to myself, I've seen what an arbitrator is doing. And I think at the time that must have now been year 2, 3, 4 of my practice. And then I wanted a new challenge. And the challenge was then I would like to sit as an arbitrator and actually then, also be the one to decide disputes and arbitration matters, which then meant that I had to go back in terms of skills and qualifications. And, I enrolled with our branch, Chartered Institute of Arbitrators Zambia branch, to do module 1, which was the introduction to international arbitration, which sort of equips you with a better understanding of arbitration at an international stage. And all through this process, you're still doing your opinions on arbitration, you're still doing your party representatives, up to the point where, I eventually did decide, now this is years later, decided to do the final module 3, which is award writing. Because obviously now I really want to say, okay, look, I've seen the challenge, and I think at this point I had sat once as an arbitrator. You get a bit of a flavor of it, and it's something you see. Arbitration is faster, it's quicker, it helps the parties, and you have a growing passion and interest in it. So then I obviously did my module 3 to get a better understanding now of how you're writing your awards, how you delivering your awards, assessing your evidence, and the whole circle around arbitration. So that was sort of a quick pathway of arbitration in terms of exposure to it through my practice and then doing the various courses. But then I think underlying all of this is, and I think this is something that's important, which you have to have, which is a passion and an interest in arbitration. The passion to follow through with it, understand how it works, what you need to constantly stay ahead with arbitration. But then also, I think our webinar, Elizabeth, is on the topic of ADR. So ADR has a component of arbitration, but then also sits together with mediation and, for example, adjudication and negotiation. So whilst that was a quick, short journey of my arbitration journey, mediation has also been part of the journey towards my ADR practice. And that largely came across through, again, my initial dispute resolution practice. But then in Zambia, for instance, when you have, I'll give you an example of an employment matter. One of the first steps our courts do, our industrial relations court, is that they'll refer the parties to mediation. Again, the idea being that parties should be able to sit down, discuss a matter, and possibly resolve it without having to go through the long process of court. So again, through dispute resolution practice, I would pick up an employment law matter, you go to court, you refer to mediation, and then you start going through the mediation chain in terms of you sit with a mediator. The idea behind mediation is you're mediating the matter, parties are discussing it. It's not about who is wrong or right in mediation, but coming to a solution around it. So in terms of mediation, that was my exposure to it through employment law, and of course other commercial matters where you'd be referred to mediation by a court because they're then just trying to resolve the matter quickly. And then lastly, in terms of my exposure to adjudication, that came through, again, I think largely for me, most of it has been through my practice. When I came across a construction law dispute, and at the time it came to my desk, obviously I hadn't done much adjudication. So then I stepped back from it until I did a bit of reading and qualifications around it. And then after that, I have now taken up a few construction education matters, again, where you have a bit of an interest in terms of how it works, what's involved in education, which is usually, a shorter, quicker process, which is a step that comes before arbitration. So in a nutshell, sort of my journey towards it has been through exposure through my practice, the dispute resolution practice, leading to education, arbitration, and mediation. So that's what I would say for now, Elizabeth.
Thank you very much, Joseph, for that. And Edgar, the floor is just to take us through your journey in ADR.
Right. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Elizabeth. I'll just pick up from where my senior left. So my senior from Zambia. My name is Edgar. I practice in Kenya as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. My journey in ADR is a pretty peculiar one. I didn't find it. It sort of found me. Somewhere in the halls of University of Nairobi Parklands, seated on a rock somewhere, trying to figure myself out. This must have been back in 2016. And of course, I had made friendship with a professor back then, Dr. Kariki Mwigwa, who practices in Kenya as well. And he sort of just roped me into what he does for a living. And at the time, he was actually just starting out his ADR practice. So I got invited into by the state law office in Kenya to basically do a rundown for them in trying to sort of connect students and the state law department in Kenya for an arbitration conference. It was the first arbitration conference in Kenya. We started from there, and that's when I started really getting into the alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. And my professor at the time, Dr. Kariki Mwigwa, basically pointed out that we should always focus on what is appropriate. And he does not like considering it as an alternative dispute resolution mechanism. Rather, he refers to them as appropriate dispute resolution mechanisms, in the sense that these are things that have been happening in Africa quite a bit all the way since before colonialism began. Pre-colonial times, we had our own traditional dispute resolution mechanisms. So really, they got it from us. We didn't get it from them. That's just how we have to make that clear, not in a competition way, but just in a realistic way. And from there, basically, that captures the mind of you're an idealistic young man ready to take on the world. You find somebody trying to sell to you some appropriate dispute resolution mechanism, and you don't want to be the traditional lawyer. So I said, doesn't hurt. So I took up arbitration, actually sponsored by him through the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators Kenya branch. Kept on going through some conferences. Got my first cases through his law firm. And even at the time, by the time I was going to Kenya School of Law, by the time I just got my degree in 2018, I had done already 2 land lease arbitrations. And I kept going in, and I took up mediation through arbitration, because some matters come to you and you realize, in as much as you're acting as arbitrator in the matter, there are other more appropriate means of dispute resolution, such as mediation, especially where sensitive matters of family are involved. So the more I immersed myself in alternative dispute resolution, the more I got the feel of what I should lean on to more. And my career has largely leaned on to arbitration, because I practice commercial law where I am, commercial and corporate law. So I get into a whole lot of tax disputes. And in fact, recently we got into some disputes with the taxman for some clients I represent. And of course, the more I immerse myself, the more the areas within which I practice my ADR sort of broaden, in which sometimes you find that mediation mixes with arbitration and arbitration mixes with mediation. So the more and more I've been doing this, the more I've been qualified enough to find myself sort of roped into these different dispute resolution mechanisms. And also interactions outside the legal field. I've interacted with a lot of engineers, and I've interacted a lot with quantity surveyors. It's very nice to see my brother from Uganda, Charles. We keep meeting in conferences in Kenya. So through that interaction, we really formed a net of different professionals who really do not advocate for the court practice, which is already backlogged, especially in Kenya. Let me speak from my Kenyan experience. So we have a situation where we keep looking for appropriate dispute resolution mechanisms for the practice for dispute resolution within the Republic of Kenya. So that's where we are, and I'm still learning, still in the journey, still finding what's more appropriate. But of the moment, I'm an arbitrator and I'm a mediator, yet to do any adjudication, but there we are. Elizabeth, that's what I can say for now.
Hey, thank you, Edgar, for that, and for the emphasis on the mediation in the ADR perspective. Amina, we would like to hear your story in this journey of ADR.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. My journey, can I say, like the previous speakers or panelists? Sorry. My journey, like the previous panelists, is not so different, but I must say that mine is more or less a chosen path. It is something I chose straight from campus when I was doing my undergraduate. When I was in my, I think, 3rd year, we got introduced to the ADR mechanisms, which can be used in the construction industry. As shared, I'm a quantity surveyor, so my expertise mainly is biased towards construction. So upon introduction to this ADR, I picked interest in arbitration, but of course ADR in general. And later, while doing my final thesis, I wrote a paper on the most suited arbitrator within the construction industry, and my argument was biased towards the quantity surveyor. not because I'm a quantity surveyor, but because of so many other reasons. Then the industry in Uganda, most arbitrators, it was dominated by architects and engineers. And there were very few quantity surveyors who had been had the background of being appointed as arbitrators. And then I remember it was Victor Odong and Philip Kaheru that were quantity surveyors in our field. The rest were from other disciplines, that is architects and engineers. So I proceeded to carry my research, and also while doing my research, I remember I had a long engagement with QS Victor Odong. He's a seasoned quantity surveyor, who further pointed me towards the direction of Kenya, where he recommended a colleague in Kenya. He's an arbitrator. He's called Paul Ngotho, and he has written a number of papers on arbitration. So he encouraged me to engage with him and basically to get more information about my research and improve on my arguments. And then I communicated to him on email, and he was very helpful, very forthcoming, shared with me so many documents, and I finished my paper. So fast forward, when I finished my paper, I shared it with him. And I remember in that email, I emphasized that I look forward to, further engagements in arbitration and the like. Of course, when you get into the field, it's a whole different ballgame. When you've just started, I was taken up with gaining skills as a quantity surveyor and the like, but also having my long-term vision or path at the back of my head. So lucky enough, I was privileged to pursue my master's in Nairobi, and among my modules was arbitration. Actually, we started with contract law, construction law, and then we proceeded into ADR, arbitration and alternative dispute resolution mechanisms in the construction industry. And I felt like, oh my God, this is my class. So I remember my contemporaries right now, they all noticed my interest in arbitration and ADR. And then my mwalimu, who is QS Kithinji, is also a chartered arbitrator, Nyagabi Kithinji. He then later during the course, he he was selling the idea or the vision of ADR within the construction industry and encouraging my contemporaries to take it on. My class was filled with construction managers, quantity surveyors, architects, engineers, and the like. So later he presented us with an opportunity to mentor two people who were really interested, and I jumped at it. And then he took me on under his wing up until today. And we started, I remember my first day when I reported, he had a conciliation matter, a matter that was being resolved through conciliation. And he dragged me along with him. So, and this was exposing me to different ADR methods. But later, of course, there's arbitration, which is a whole other ballgame. So in there, we used to do arbitration, we used to do mediation, we used to do conciliation, and also adjudication to a certain extent. So when I started, it was initially for me to pick up what I had from class and basically implement it, but also in there, he used to throw cases or issues at me and ask me to analyze and the like, more or less grooming. So later, during my master's, COVID broke, so I came back to Uganda for a while. And in there, I proceeded. He had encouraged me to do the introductory course. So I proceeded and did the course. And later I sent him a message. I'm like, oh, sir, I've done the course and here's my certificate. If I remember, then he thought when I came back to Uganda, I dropped the ball. But that's when he was more, he was more encouraged to mentoring me as an arbitrator because to a certain extent, I exhibited a level of commitment and focus. So after that, he kept sending me this document, that document, read this, read that. And while I was pursuing my master's, I was working with him. So in there, I was privileged to grow my skills as an arbitrator in terms of writing claims, in terms of different disputes, and also advising clients on the approaches, advising them on their contracts and the like. And it was a very rewarding experience because I was able to grow, I was able to learn. And towards completion of my master's, I wrote a paper on challenges on arbitration, on the use of arbitration in resolving construction disputes in the construction industry of Uganda, because I was still seeing a gap that within the construction industry in Uganda, whereas many people recognize ADR, very few actually utilize it, especially in their contracts. Some of the contract clauses that advocate for arbitration are struck out of the contracts before the contract is signed. So there's several loopholes, and some of those were highlighted in my research paper, which also helped me grow as a profession and at the same time as an arbitrator in the field. So it guided me on areas that I can focus on areas that I can be able to make an impact in the construction industry of Uganda. So while I was doing my master's, I also, after doing an introductory course, I enrolled for the module 1, which I successfully passed. I remember he encouraged me and also partly sponsored it. Then after that, after doing module 1, I enrolled for module 2, and currently I'm doing my module 3. So upon return to Uganda, of course, you're encouraged to find mentors. And so I tried to dive into the arbitration space in Uganda and identify different mentors that I can work closely with to grow myself as an arbitrator, also as a young arbitrator in the industry. So, and that's where I am. So that's my journey as an arbitrator. Thank you.
Thank you, Amina. It's quite inspiring to see that you actually got to learn about ADR in your undergraduate studies and in a totally different field from our various speakers. So maybe to delve into our next segment, you have all talked about the fact that you are part of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, and we would want to understand the various benefits that you've derived from the membership and how you would encourage the other participants with us in the webinar to get involved in the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators.
Hello.
Yes, if we can start with Joseph, that would be helpful.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks, Elizabeth. So, how did I become involved with the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators? Again, there's through the professional way. Through when you take up various matters, arbitration matters, you come across the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators because it's at times the appointing authority. In terms of, as a party representative, you'd be writing to the institute, and then they would be appointing an arbitrator on your behalf. But then I also came across it through training, because in Zambia, the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators is primarily our main arbitral institution that deals with training. So from those two angles, I then interacted with our institute. But then in terms of actual getting into and involved into the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, my first step was obviously to membership. So obviously, you pay your subscriptions In our case, we pay with both the Zambia branch and the London branch. And then once you're paid up, you're more or less a full member, which then, allows you to then participate into the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. So in my case, the next question was, so fine, I paid my subscription. I've done my training, the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. There's a professional side, work where you get your appointments and arbitrators from there. But then the question is, how then more do you get involved in the institute? So, and I'll give the example. This is pretty much from the Zambia context. One of the ways I got involved with our institute is participating in the branch activities. And these are because, the Zambia branch often frequently holds webinars, trainings, workshops. So that's one way in which I got more and more involved in our Zambia branch. And then another part of us is because each branch has committees. So in our case in Zambia, and I believe the same with Kenya, Uganda as well, you obviously have your membership committee, your appointments committee. You then obviously have publicity committee. So these are all various committees of your branch. And again, if you really want to get involved in your institute, you plug yourself into one of these. So I did, join some of these committees. And more specifically, I think 2-3 years ago, then I did plug into the Young Members Committee, because that's a specific special interest group. And then initially I joined in as just a member, general ordinary member of the executive committee. Then I think 2 years later, which is then eventually when I did take up the position of chairperson of the Young Members Committee of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. So that's one of the ways in which I eventually got involved and participated in the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators Zambia branch generally. In terms of having joined and participated through that, what were the benefits? I tend to think that the benefits sort of what you can get out of it by sort of putting into it. So for example, you find that with your membership, you signed up, you participate in these committees, you then have, I think it opens the door to professional training. So like I said, you obviously find the branch every now and then keeps running trainings. So that's module 1, module 2, module 3, and even just your general webinars, which could be, for example, on every now and then our branch may run a training on how to draft an award, how to draft a robust award, how to conduct arbitral proceedings. So you have these frequent trainings. And I think those are some of the benefits you find when you do eventually join as a member. So then you have continuous professional trainings, which I think help put you in good stead in terms of continuously building up your skills and being able to respond to the ever-changing needs in the arbitration and ADR circles. And I mean, additional benefits you'd get would be the opportunity to then meet and interact with other professionals in this field. So that goes back down to networking. And I know we'll speak about this a little more as we go along, but I think this is quite a crucial benefit because I think, in the ADR circles we're in, you tend to find that it's a circle that needs to know each other. So you need to get to know your peers in the circle, in the field, both amongst your age group and the older age group. So that's another benefit you get. You're going to meet with various age groups, various experience levels, and it allows you to just exchange ideas and then build up your portfolio and as well as your network. And I think also getting this again, one of the other main benefits is mentorship, because I think once you join your branch and within your branch, there are certain people who have gone quite ahead of everyone else and who are experienced, and then these serve as your mentors. So when you get into your branch, you settled in, and now you say, look, I want to do either party representative, I want to set as an arbitrator. There is then the option of mentorship where each branch, at least, I'll speak from the Zambia branch as we go further in our webinar, but then each branch has its own method of mentorship program. And in this case, that's one of the benefits that you will find with the Zambia branch, which is mentorship. And I think it's important. It helps set you up in your arbitration practice as you take off. So just ever so briefly, that would be my experience of how I got involved.
Yes, I meant to ask you.
And
when you pray for rain, you
with the benefits of joining our branch. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Joseph. Edgar, would you take us through the various benefits that you've been able to derive from your membership with CIAB?
Right. I'll start with the question that Elizabeth you've asked. Benefits of being a member of SIAB. The access you get is quite amazing. When you allow yourself to be in a group of professionals who know more than you, because I noticed that in the group we are very many young people, including students. When you allow yourself to be in a group of people who know more than you and who have been exposed more than you sort of grow not only professionally but also as a person. Just speaking from what Joseph has said, I think it all boils down to who you surround yourself with. And I think that's what SIAB is. The professional body allows you to sort of expose yourself to different professionals, expose yourself to different environments in which you would have not been in. Suppose you are not in an institution such as Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. And we're not only talking about the Kenya branch or Zambia branch, but also interacting on a global stage with the other SIAB, the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, as like say London, one opened up in the US, another one in Brazil. You have like an all-round experience based on the people that you're interacting with. That said and done, other than that, I'll also just try and speak also on the opportunities that are available for young professionals with regard to not only membership, but within the larger ADR practice. There's something that I'd say and that I've carried with my entire life as a professional is that, you have to be humble enough to learn and be proud enough to immerse yourself in these different ADR spaces that you're in. And suppose, say, sometimes when we are talking, it seems like you're talking only from a perspective of Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. But but ADR is big. Chartered Institute of Arbitrators is just a part of it. There are other pathways in which you can take as a young professional. And I'd say this, when you immerse yourself and you give yourself an opportunity to sort of grow in the area, it sort of comes easy to you. I'm speaking from a Ugandan perspective as well and a Kenyan perspective. I do not know about Zambia, but the East African region is largely a very Christian setting, and a Christian setting, the Bible it is usually said the harvest is big, but the harvesters are few, and the opportunities for ADR are quite many. Are you ready for the opportunities that are there? That's the question you should ask yourself. Because one, when an opportunity comes to you, if you're not ready to handle that opportunity, you're not going to maximize from the opportunity that has presented itself. And it all comes to capacity building. Being part of SIAB is just one of the ways in which you can maximize the opportunity that come to you, because you have like a plethora of mentors, you have a plethora of advices, you have a plethora of experience that surrounds yourself. But there are other ways like participating in moot court competitions. In Kenya, we organize the moot court competitions under the Chartered Institute of Kenya, the Kenya branch, participating in activities like conferences. And also, when you're seeking for a mentor, allow yourself to also mentor other people. Because you get what you give. And sometimes when you're asking to receive something, you also have to give yourself to be willing to raise somebody else up. It allows you to have a capacity for growth. When I speak about moot court competitions, I'm not only talking about participating, such as like when you're a student and you participate in a moot court competition. No, you can participate as a judge in these various moot court competitions that are around, especially the African region. There is the VISMUT that always has the arbitration tenet in it. They're always in need of arbitration volunteers who can just show up and sit in a tribunal, and you're able to basically help students through navigate the moot court competition. On top of that, how you get into such spaces is, as when you want to be in a space, you have to allow yourself to be seen in that space. Immerse yourself in the space that you're in, whether you're a quantity surveyor, whether you're an architect, whether you're a lawyer. Allow yourself to be in that space and grow in that space. I'll emphasize on humility. Allow yourself to be criticized and allow yourself to also grow in that area that you're in. As Joseph has said, in Zambia, you have a situation where there are different committees And the branches are largely inclusive. They allow different advices, and it's so easy to be part of such committees. You can participate in it. In Kenya, I know Chartered Institute has a wall, sort of, that you have to be a member to participate in such activities. So we introduced this thing called student membership. I don't know whether it's the same for the Ugandan branch, but then student membership allows students to participate directly in the activities of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators in student-led activities. We allow students, for instance, to come and volunteer in conferences where they don't have to pay for the conferences. Rather than when they volunteer for the conferences, they're able to participate in it and also help around as rapporteurs in the conferences, etc., etc. So such are the opportunities that I'm talking about. When you allow yourself to be in that space that allows you to grow, it's usually basically like a first step into growing in the field of ADR. Remember, maybe my parting shot would be arbitration, whether it's arbitration, adjudication, mediation, they can only be as good as the arbitrators. So arbitration, being an arbitrator and a mediator is the easy part. Being a good arbitrator and a good mediator is really the question. Like, how do I become a good arbitrator and how do I become a good mediator? Because you see, when you're skilled, the opportunity is going to find you. So in this situation, you have to allow yourself to build capacity within yourself, participate in as much activities as you can. As a student, as a member, you have to participate in these activities. You have to allow yourself to participate in these activities. That's how you grow in these different areas. Over to you, Elizabeth. I think that's what I can say for now.
Thank you, Edgar, for the emphasis on the student membership aspect in respect to participating in SIAB. Amina, would you take us through what benefits you've been able to get from your membership with SIAB?
I'm going to try not to repeat what my previous panelists have shared. I feel like they have exhausted most of them. But on a personal basis, one of the things I realized with SIAB, it's an international organization or body for all ADR practitioners. And wherever you go, for example, if I go to Kenya, if I go to Zambia, if I go to Dar es Salaam and I say I'm a member of SIAB, I am welcomed. It's a branch that it's an umbrella for all of us as practitioners, as ADR practitioners. Though the focus is on arbitration, was also one of the practical benefits I can share. I was privileged to travel to Singapore, and while there, I looked up the SIAB offices, and I called in, and I just wanted to go interact with the SIAB practitioners there. And the reception I got was very nice. I was able to share about ADR in East Africa and the like, and also they were able to share with me the different programs that they do and so on and so forth. So one of the key benefits is basically networking. You're going to network on an international basis. Don't limit yourself to just your industry or even to just your country. There's that international networking. Also, the other aspect is that in this field, one of the key benefits is that you're given a platform to learn from so many other industries. We have quantity surveyors, lawyers, we have people in insurance, we have people in procurement and the like. So ADR cuts across. So it gives you a platform to interact and understand the different sectors of the industry or operations, and that way you're able to empower yourself as a young person, as a young profession, and the like. Of course, among the others that the previous speakers have shared, which is networking, growing. Myself, when I was training under QS Kithinji, he used to make sure all the members in the firm attend the different professional development programs that SIAB Kenya used to organize. At the same time, also activities for the young members group, sometimes it was even a must to attend these ones for you to network and grow as an arbitrator. Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Amina. Joseph, you talked about the importance of mentorship in for an arbitrator, and we just wanted to find out what are the various mentorship opportunities that young arbitrators in ADR can take up.
Thanks for that, Elizabeth. So I think maybe before diving into the various opportunities, I think maybe sometimes it's important to set the scene and understand what exactly is mentorship. So in this context, I think the understanding is mentorship is where you have an experienced person who is basically pouring into or, extending their experiences, their know-how to what would then possibly call slightly less experienced persons, who in this case may be young arbitration practitioners and students. But then I'll also put a slight disclaimer because I've noticed a mentee can also be an older person, but they're just simply not experienced in, the arbitration circles or the ADR circles. So then with that idea in mind of, what a mentorship is, you then be asking, what are the mentorship opportunities for young members in ADR? In the Zambian context, and I believe this may also apply to Kenya and Uganda, we have a practical mentorship program in Zambia at the moment where, and I think it runs through our appointments committee, where whenever we have an arbitration matter, so where our branch is appointing an arbitrator, there is now a deliberate policy where we then say, if Elizabeth is appointed as the arbitrator, we then attach, for example, Edgar as a young arbitration practitioner to that to sit with her in that particular arbitration. And then the idea will then be that Edgar will sit in the whole arbitration proceedings from the very beginning. So he will then begin to learn how arbitration actually works from the preliminary meeting to the exchange of pleadings, the actual hearings, whether they're oral, whether it's just document evidence, all the way through to the drafting of an award and delivery of the arbitral award. The idea there is that in our case in Zambia, we're trying to set up a mentorship, where at the end of the whole process, Edgar will then be able to say, look, I've sat through an arbitration hearing. I have seen it practically. I've gotten a bit of the know-how. And then it gives our branch as well a bit of, a lot more confidence. So, okay, fine. He's gone through a mentorship phase. He understands it a little more. He's seen it practically. And then it allows, I think it sets him up now to then request to then sit as an arbitrator on his own, having had the experience of it. Now, obviously, there are a few things behind that because obviously, arbitration is quite a confidential process. So then obviously you deal with things in the background such as non-disclosure agreements so that you make sure, what Edgar learns or hears during the arbitration mentorship process is not revealed elsewhere. And ultimately, you also need the consent of the parties for Edgar to sit in and participate in this arbitration and mentorship program. So that's one of the opportunities we have with our branch for participating in terms of the mentorship. But then, mentorship also goes, I think, beyond only observing an arbitration proceeding. Mentorship also means you identify a mentor who you're able to latch onto and then specifically learn from. So again, usually you find, at least I would always recommend, is that a young arbitration practitioner has the opportunity and should identify a mentor who they can then say, this is my mentor, I will learn from this person. And, this is a person who is then going to be able to share with a young practitioner. So you'd be sharing, could be reading materials, it could be experiences of this mentor in terms of what they have seen in their arbitration journey. And usually you could do these things on a one-on-one. You could set up these meetings with your mentor, you are meeting one-on-one and then they're discussing all these things with you. And I think ultimately the idea is just for a young practitioner to get a feel of, what those who have gone before us have gone through, their experiences, so that when you do eventually get your turn to sit as an arbitrator, or it could also be as a party representative, you're not starting from zero, but instead you're starting from a point of experience. And even when you do eventually get your appointment or your party representative, you should have a mentor who you're able to always go back to and say, Mr. X, I'm now doing my own arbitration proceedings. This is the situation between the parties. I think I'm a bit stuck here. What would you do, or what have you done in the past? And then this mentor should then be able to sit down with you and take you step by step through the various ways you can get around some of these things. And then I'll just take a step back again, Elizabeth, if you don't mind. In terms of the mentorship opportunity, one of the other things I've seen, and this is not restricted to the Zambia branch alone, and I do encourage it for young practitioners individually, but I've also seen it through a few of these other arbitral institutions, the international ones, is that one of the other ways of mentorship is through tribunal secretary. So various institutions offer the young practitioner an opportunity to sit as a tribunal secretary. So tribunal secretary would be a bit similar to what we're doing in Zambia, but then you're given more of a practical hand in terms of you will run with certain parts of the arbitration. So, in arbitration proceedings, you get to a point where you are preparing preliminary meeting minutes, preliminary orders, even, just generally running meetings, schedules. So then a young practitioner then given that opportunity as a tribunal secretary, assisting the main arbitrator. And then, you're running with those processes, the idea being that you're being mentored to eventually then run your own arbitration, but through the process of being a tribunal secretary. And I think that does help get the young arbitration practitioner in terms of some form of mentorship and getting along that way. And then I think mentorship also takes the form of participating in two aspects, I think, webinars and conferences. So when you attend conferences and skills training workshops, usually you find the speakers at those conferences are your experienced arbitrators. You experienced arbitrators, you experienced mediators, you experienced adjudicators. And at these events, you find the topics being discussed could be those that relate to how to conduct arbitral proceedings, how to draft an arbitral award, how to deal with a challenge to your jurisdiction. Basically, these conferences are designed to help build not only young arbitrators, but general arbitrators as well, your skills towards the ADR. So it helps. I think it's a mentorship opportunity for young arbitration practitioners to attend the conferences, the trainings, the workshops, because I think you pick up these skills, but then also importantly, it gives you an opportunity to interact with the speakers. And then from your interactions with them, you're then able to then go back to what I said initially, where you can then set up your one-on-one mentorship with a mentor. And it's also from there where you're able to speak to a mentor and say, look, I know you do a lot of arbitration proceedings, arbitration matters, education matters. Is there an opportunity for me to sit in one of your arbitration proceedings? It's through these conferences and trainings and workshops that you make these networks, make these connections. And then every now and then one arbitrator will then say, yes, I have one coming up. You can join up, you can, partner with me either as a tribunal secretary or just as a mentee, watching it in the background. And then also, again, it also goes back to webinars, I think, because webinars also give us an opportunity for mentorship. Because again, you still will have skills training, you have mentors speaking, and you just basically pick up from these mentors who continue to participate in these conferences, webinars, and then you sort of pick up on who can be your mentor and whatnot. And then maybe last, what I would also say around this, Elizabeth, is that a mentorship opportunity is sort of something you have to create for yourself. So two aspects here. Again, the conferences and the skills training workshop. I know there is a bit of a cost around it in terms of because these are held, in country after country. So I know, like at the moment, there is currently the African Arbitration Association. They're having their annual conference in Cameroon, Douala. So that would be a good opportunity for a young practitioner to travel to, attend the conference, meet these experienced practitioners, and then open up the opportunities to interact with them, get them on board. But then also, I think with today's world of technology, it's a little easier to then also set up mentorship circles where you could identify a particular mentor through these workshops and trainings. And then now you continue on having your own one-on-ones through Zoom, Microsoft Teams. And, when I say this, I have in mind the young ICA. They have a very creative mentorship program where I think for the African region, they've identified about 6-7 young arbitrators, and then they've tied them to one mentor. and then they meet every once in a month, I think, and it's for a period of 2 years. So it's a mentorship cycle for 2 years, but it gives you access to your mentor, where you basically have access once a month, and you can ask any question you want towards building up your arbitration portfolio and your skills around that. And then lastly, I would give an example, because sometimes I like to make it a little more practical. Having attended a few conferences, workshops, some webinars, some practical, I found a situation where I have found sometimes I'll call them mentors, or sometimes I'll just call them senior arbitration practitioners who I'm able to reach out to every now and then. So, for example, in South Africa, there's a gentleman called Jonathan Ripley Evans. I think he's very good with young arbitration practitioners. I've reached out to him. He's available in terms of these arbitration questions and anything you want around him. In Zimbabwe, I think there's a lady, maybe you may have heard of her, Suzanne Mutangandura. She's also good. In Kenya, there's Mr. John Ohega. He's also good with young arbitration practitioners. There's Stanley Nyamahinde from Zimbabwe. So there are all these people you can reach out to after having met them at conferences and the various places. And I think they then set up mentorship opportunities for you, where you can then ask questions, interact, and just basically get all the information you want. So the opportunities are there, and sometimes we have to be a little more active towards getting them. But yeah, overall, they are opportunities for young practitioners.
Okay, thank you so much, Joseph, for the extensive discussion on the mentorship opportunities that are available for the young ADR practitioners. So I just have a question for Amina. Amina, you had mentioned the mentor that you had in Kenya. Would you kindly expound on how the young members can actually find the suitable mentors in their specific career?
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. And I want to say thank you to Jose. I must say he's making my engagement quite easy, because he really gave an expounded overview on mentorship. Myself, like I said, I shared in my introduction, while I was during my arbitration class, ADR class, and particular arbitration, my mwalimu, QS Kithinji, then offered an opportunity to mentor two practitioners who are interested in ADR. And lucky enough I was, so I jumped at it. But it was not just a matter of jumping at it. After that, I was interviewed. We sat down in an interview with him and other colleagues at the firm that is Megabi Kithinji in Nairobi. But also, before I actually enrolled or I started, I also did a bit of due diligence. But all the comments, all the feedback I was getting from my contemporaries were, you're in the right place if this is what you want to do. So choosing a mentor is two-way. You choose a mentor, but also a mentor chooses you. But also for them to choose you, need to exhibit certain levels of commitment, because it is time, as Joseph has shared. The whole mentorship session, my first day of reporting, I was quickly ushered into an arbitration that was just kickstarting. So we were able to sit into a preliminary meeting with the parties. Still, like as Joseph has said, the arbitrator, who was my mentor, QS Kithinji, had to first seek consent from the parties, who accepted for us, me and my other colleagues called Rita, to sit into that arbitration. And as I speak now, it is being concluded this year. So but I also like to mention that you can't have just one mentor. Like as Joseph has shared, you need to have, there's so many seasoned arbitrators, and you need to have a pool of them at your disposal. You need to create relationships. You need to create a certain level of relationship with them, so that you're able to get or to equip yourself with as much knowledge as possible. So like I said, also when in Uganda, I also have a mentor. That is, of course, there is a arbitrator, Albert Mukasa. There is Philip Kaheru, who is within my industry. So you need to have a number of seasoned arbitrators at your disposal. I also want to share one thing to do with mentorship and also choosing. I shared with you how I engaged with an arbitrator called Paul Ngotho. So if I say fast forward when I was doing my work with my mentor, different arbitrations and the like, arbitrator Paul, I remember, reached out to my boss, QS Kithinji, requesting for a mentee or requesting for a young arbitrator to assist him in a certain dispute he was handling. And then QS Kithinji recommended me to assist him. But this was, I didn't know it was the Paul Ngotho I had engaged several years ago, and he also didn't know it was me. So later on, when we get to discuss, and then we compared notes and we confirmed that it was indeed the gentleman I had engaged while doing my undergraduate research. And he was very impressed at how far I had come, how committed I was. And I proceeded to assist him in that arbitration, which I believe was concluded because we were writing an award and it was concluded. And believe you me, he paid me. So what am I trying to say is, even after mentoring you, if your services can be monetized, all these mentors will compensate you. And from then, I know I've worked on other two disputes with him while assisting him as a young arbitrator, but also, if I'm to add, remotely. So you need to grow yourself as a young arbitrator in terms of competence. Joseph has shared the different trainings that are there, the different networking opportunities. While in those spaces, you need to prove yourself as a competent young arbitrator. And that way, the more disputes you're able to handle, the more arbitrators you're able to interact with, it gives you a wider perspective, first of all, on the profession as an ADR, but also it equips you to become a better arbitrator. So upon appointment, you will be in a good, safe space. So just to say that I have a series, just to conclude your question, Elizabeth, I have a series of mentors that I engage with, and you have to actively keep in touch, or when you find hiccups here and there, you engage them. I must say I'm privileged that most of my mentors are just a call away in the event that I find a challenge or a hiccup in my ADR practice and the like. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amina. That was an insightful discussion on how we can actually find the suitable mentors who can coach us during our career. And for Edgar, we'll just have a question for you in respect to the different career progression pathways that exist for young members in ADR. Given that someone has, gone through the different route of studying, what are the various career progression pathways that they can take up in this journey?
Okay. Well, I'll begin by just in the localized version of Chartered Institute of Arbitrators Kenya, which I assume cuts across the board with also Zambia and Uganda. Becoming an arbitrator, sort of, you have to go through training, and where you train as an arbitrator really counts and really matters. So in Kenya, the first route is you do your associate exams, your entry exams into arbitration. After you do your associate exams and pass, you can directly join into the membership exams. After doing the membership exams, before you progress further, we have a situation where you go through there's a mentoring session after membership, where the institute sort of pairs you with a seasoned arbitrator stroke mediator and just allows you to grow in experience before you can go ahead and do your fellowship classes, module 3. So it goes all the way up to fellowship, then now you get to become a chartered arbitrator. But other than that, there's also a pathway for an opportunity before becoming an associate, because I'm just also considering that there's a cost aspect to it. And what I've noticed is that the sooner you get into these opportunities, the better for a young practitioner, in the sense that I have witnessed that the people who we begin with, especially the students who participate in the activities, be it mooting, be it volunteering opportunities for the conferences and the different activities that the institute does, you get noticed when you sort of stick out like a pin. You get noticed by someone, and sometimes you find out that even the people who notice you understand the situation you're in, as opposed that you can't afford the fees that come along with the cost aspect that can't come along with the membership, the associate membership, etc. You can't be sponsored either by the institute or by someone within the institute. So that's just something that we began also as a Chartered District Arbitrators Kenya branch, where we have a fund for sponsoring dynamic and inclusive, and just trying to increase that inclusivity, where we try and sponsor students who have a proven track record of being participants in these arbitration exercises. Other than that, there's a situation of immersing yourself, not only within the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, also in different activities within ADR. I suppose if you go in, as Joseph alluded to, there's so many activities currently going on right now. For instance, there's the Association of Young Arbitrators that conference that is currently going on, and there's you can always find yourself in such conferences, especially right now we live in a world of a very included world, where I can join in a Nigerian conference online, and I'll be able to participate in that conference. Other than that, there's the mooting competitions, like where you can participate, as Joseph again said, you can become a tribunal secretary in these mooting competitions. You can literally sit in and watch a moot competition and participate. And also just speak to the students here. Form clubs within your school, form student groups within your schools, where you can actually meet and sit and discuss ADR. You see, if you go as a university, be it Makerere, be it University of Nairobi, you can easily invite a seasoned professional to come and give a talk. And in fact, this is one of the best ways in bringing just enhancing the mentorship opportunities that are available. So what I'm trying to say is that the more activities you immerse yourself with as a young professional, the better the more your path is basically created within the ADR professional pathways that are there. You have to keep participating. You'll stick out like a sore thumb, basically. The more you participate in these different activities that are there, the more you'll be seen, and the more it will be easy to sort of choose a pathway that best fits for you. And maybe I'll just give a caution. There's no one pathway to becoming an arbitrator or becoming a mediator, other than the educational pathways that are within the institutions. There's only what you yourself allow yourself to capacity build within yourself. So what have I left out? I think that's it from my side, Elizabeth, unless you have a further question to it.
Thank you, Edgar. That was actually a good discussion on that. Amina, would you want to throw more light on that?
Yes, I will. Thank you very much, Edgar, for that. I must say, I'm just a bit very passionate about this aspect, because we received so many questions in this line of the different pathways, especially now for practitioners who are not in the who don't have legal background. Are often challenged because sometimes there's a low-key stereotype of arbitration, isn't it, just for lawyers and the like, which is not. it's open to all professionals. And the pathway is just in a clear way is one, you first do the introductory course. I'm sure Edgar's gone through this. I just want to meticulously break it down for the good of those questions that I've really been getting. You after doing the introductory course, if you don't have a legal background, you have to do the introductory course. And after doing the introductory course, you can apply to CEAB UK to become an associate member. Of course, every membership level comes with some fees of membership. So you have to look out for those. Once you become a member, then you have to pay those annual fees. Then after doing the introductory, you apply for, after doing the introductory, you apply for module 1. But you cannot do module 1 unless you pass the introductory. So you have to make sure you pass the introductory, then you do module 1. After enrolling for module 1 and you pass module 1, then you can apply to CEAB to upgrade your membership to member level. And after you've passed module 1, then you can enroll for module 2. So you cannot do module 2 unless you finish module 1. I just wanted to emphasize that. And then the last then after doing module 2, you go ahead to do module 3, which is for where you qualify to be a fellow. But of course, as Joseph highlighted, that does not stop you from practicing, from being part of arbitrations and doing mentorship, and also taking on an arbitration in case you're appointed or you've been qualified to be an arbitrator for a certain dispute. Then for those that have legal background, there is an option of accelerated route to membership. When you do the accelerated route to membership, you have you don't have to do the introductory course. You don't have to do module 1. I think you skip straight to module 2. Sorry. Yeah, so you have an accelerated route. And right now, CEAB Uganda has training for both introductory and also accelerated route that are scheduled for those that want to join. So it's I just encourage if you're interested and these pathways really take your interest, please enroll as soon as possible. In my experience, you give yourself a year to do a module, especially for us who have don't have a legal background. So if you want to start, let's say if you want to start your arbitration journey, the sooner you start, the better. But also like Edgar shared, there are other mentorship avenues while you're doing this, can I say education aspect, there is also the practical aspect where you're going to meet the different arbitrators and also work with your mentors. It is a prerequisite that when you're doing module 2, you're attached to a mentor and you're actually actively involved in an arbitration. This is for CEAB, put it in place to make sure that you're getting the necessary training that you require to practice as an arbitrator. Thank you.
Thank you, Amina and Edgar, for that. And I'm certain that the participants who are yet to take on the route of being involved in ADR will actually take it up and start immediately to take up the various courses and get involved in all this. So I just have a question for Joseph. He's amongst us is the head of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. And I do believe that he has been able to get involved in various arbitrations and know the various trends that are actually in ADR. So I just had a question in respect to what are the emerging trends and the developments in ADR that you see are that young members should actually take up.
Okay, thanks, Elizabeth. But just before I jump into this one, Elizabeth, I just wanted to, because Amina had spoken quite at length about the pathways. So I just wanted to mention a few other pathways which are available. Some I'll mention a bit costly, but just ever so briefly. There is the diploma in arbitration, I think, which is run by Oxford University. And I do think sometimes it has a few scholarship options available. So that's another pathway training and educational program. And then there is also at times we have a few universities across the world which have arbitration programs in part of their master's degrees, which are then recognized by CRB. And then when a student completes that master's degree, they are then given exemptions by the CRB, and then ultimately you're able to then either get recognition as a member or a fellow. So those are the two other educational trainings I just thought I would mention. And then coming now to the question you asked, which are the emerging trends or developments in ADR that excite or perhaps concern. So there'd be two ultimately for me. That would be the use of technology and artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence sits for me as a concern. I had earlier this year attended a conference in Hong Kong. One of the themes was whether artificial intelligence is a threat or a tool for arbitration practitioners. And it was being looked at in the context that the way artificial intelligence is working now, you are able to feed into it the facts of an arbitration case, the witness statements, the documentary evidence, and AI will give you an arbitral award. So then now there's a bit of a concern is that our arbitrator is going to be made irrelevant, because then AI comes into play and can pretty much determine an arbitration proceeding. Obviously, it's a concern, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, the consensus was that we're not yet at a point where AI should eventually take over dealing with arbitral proceedings because it doesn't yet have the human touch, and it would obviously miss out, I guess, on a few of the procedures towards delivering an award in terms of, obviously AI won't be able to sit and hear a witness being cross-examined, re-examined, their demeanor, and matters around that. But then the concern for me slightly then trickles down because obviously as a young arbitration practitioner, first of all, if AI comes in, it would start by taking away the very opportunity we would have at the very bottom of the chain. I use it loosely because then obviously you wouldn't at any point get an opportunity to sit as an arbitrator. So naturally for the young arbitration practitioner there'd be that concern. And to take away opportunities, for example, because you set up your laptop, which will then have AI, which will take notes, record everything. So again, a young arbitration practitioner will be losing opportunity, for example, to sit as a tribunal secretary, or even just to sit in as a mentee, because then perhaps people will be saying, well, AI is going to record everything. AI will, basically assist me. It will be my artificial assistant. And then, so there is that concern for me, for young arbitration practitioners. I don't think we're yet at the point where AI will eventually 100% kick in, but I do see it as a concern in that sense because it then may take away opportunities for the young arbitration practitioners. So yeah, that does sit as a concern for me at the moment. In terms of possible trends that may excite me, again, it goes back to the use of technology, and in this case, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and basically, also WhatsApp as well. And I look at it in the sense that it goes back to some of the things we've already discussed. One, it allows you to participate in arbitration proceedings. So for instance, if you get to the point where you have a mentor and this mentor is dealing with an international arbitration proceeding. So your mentor could be in Kenya, the other party could be in South Africa, the other party could be in Paris. As long as you get your consents, they agree for you to participate in the arbitration proceeding, you can imagine that you will be sitting in Uganda, the other party in South Africa, the other party in Kenya, and that will not stop you from participating in, say, for example, an ICC arbitration, which is, the top-notch arbitration you can ever participate in. So technology does give us that advantage to sit where we are in our various countries, but still participate in arbitration proceedings, either as party representative, could be as an arbitrator, or it could be as a mentee, or even just as a tribunal secretary. So that does excite me, the opportunity to participate without having to travel. And maybe speaking from the heart of maybe an arbitrator or party representative, technology does now also give us the opportunity to reduce the costs of arbitral proceedings, because now you don't have to travel to Paris, you don't have to travel to Johannesburg, you don't have to travel to Lusaka. You can sit in your various places, still have your arbitral proceedings, have them done, deliver your award, and, you'd be good to go. And I think also like Edgar has previously mentioned, now you have webinars or conferences, which could be in Nigeria, they could be in Lagos, they could be in Hong Kong, Paris, you will still have the opportunity to participate in them. And, you get your credits, whether it's CPD points, whether it's just your general development of, continuous professional development, your skills, you'll still be able to upskill even without having to physically go there. So yes, technology does give us opportunity to participate and still be there as much as it was physical. So those would be my two immediate excitement side of things and concern side of things.
Thank you, Joseph. That was a good one. And given that AI is something that's, upcoming and taking up almost all the industries, that's definitely something that should be exciting for an ADR professional. I have a question for Amina. Given the future of ADR, how would you advise the young members to take up roles that would shape the future of ADR?
Thank you very much. Before I dive into my question, I just want to a little bit not counter, but also with the excitement of technology, Joseph, thank you. I just want to encourage the young arbitrators that whereas we have technology which ultimately cuts down our costs, and I've also been privileged to still proceed with an arbitration remotely using Zoom and the like. There is the aspect of human interaction, which is very, very important and very key. Whereas we may have technology at our disposal, I just want to encourage, in case you see an international conference, in case you see a training, even if it has a Zoom option and the like, if you can, try and go for the physical. It gives you bigger mileage in terms of interacting with people, getting to know the different practitioners, them getting to know you, and things like that. And especially when you're starting out in your career, it's very, very key for that interaction. Technology can come in if things have failed, but also later when you're a seasoned person. But right now, when you're building yourself as an arbitrator, interaction with different practitioners is really key. So just to dive into your question, Liz, sorry, I'm trying to remember what it was. Sorry, come again, Liz. Hello?
Yes, your question was on what role can young members play in the future of ADR?
Okay, thank you. I didn't want to. So starting with that, I would just encourage the first role you can do is your presence. Is be present and make your presence count. Don't just come, but make your presence count. That is one of the roles. But also, as the young people for tomorrow, for the next generation, CEAB has a sustainability plan. The sustainability plan is geared towards ensuring continuity for the CEAB at large. And this is where the young members really come into play. This is where we have the young member groups or the young member committees that are all over the world. It's to try and prepare the next generation for us to take on on the core right now. We have future fellows, we have future presidents or chairs for arbitration chapters all over the world. So what I would say in terms of presence, like as young arbitrators, we need to be present, we need to be involved for tomorrow, but also to fulfill the sustainability goal that CEAB has. Hence the young members group. The other role that we have to play is there's one of the guidelines I always get from my mentors, which is competence. Competence. You have to empower yourself practically as an arbitrator, and also educationally. You need to learn. You need to do the trainings that you require, as many trainings as possible. You need to practice as much as you can. You need to, if you want to practice award writing, we're writing orders of direction. Orders of direction, or writing claims. If you're going to be a party representative, competence is key. We need to sharpen our saw in this line of practice of ADR. Do extensive reading, attend webinars, write articles, and the like. So you need to sharpen your saw so that you increase or improve your competence. If we have competent young arbitrators, it means our role as ensuring the continuity of giving credibility to arbitration or the arbitration process will be ultimately fulfilled. The other role, of course, is while we are fulfilling our presence, of course, is attending the different webinars that we see, or the different trainings that you see. If you can afford, if you have time, please attend. But at the same time, don't go alone. Preach the gospel. Most of my contemporaries, especially undergraduate, or any opportunity I see for ADR, I try to encourage them and try to drag them along, especially for us practitioners in the construction industry. As quantity surveyors, please don't be biased. Other professionals in the industry, we are very few arbitrators, and yet we play a very crucial role in dispute resolution. So preach the gospel, try to encourage as many people as possible, but don't just preach the gospel, still guide, share as much guidance as possible. If someone is interested in ADR and they reach out to you, give them as much information as you can, but also you can point them in the right direction. If I can't help you, maybe approach person X and person Y. They'll be in a better position to help you. So for me, my core, or our key role is one, competence, that is continuously sharpening our saw, showing up, that is present, be present and let your presence be felt. Also, Edgar shared earlier about mentoring others. If you're being mentored, please extend your arm and also mentor other people, because will also be old a couple of years to come. So we need to also mentor the future ADR practitioners. So those are my key role. But also, last but not least, is you need to uphold the ADR aspect of integrity. While you're growing yourself as an ADR practitioner, you need to also hold integrity at the highest, so that this prestigious industry is not watered down. We have some challenges where certain parties do not really give credit to ADR, but especially arbitration. But if we play our part as practitioners and foresee the processes in the best manner possible, then we'll give it the integrity that it deserves and build the credibility. So that's what I have to share on the role of young arbitrators or young practitioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Amina. So just to delve into our last set of questions that we have for the speakers, we do understand that young ADR professionals face a number of challenges in this journey, and we just want to find out how they can navigate the same. And a question to Joseph is, what specific challenges have you seen that young ADR professionals are facing, and how can they actually overcome those challenges?
Okay, thanks, Elizabeth. So the challenges faced, I think I would categorize it as breaking into the field of ADR and getting recognition, and there'll be a small component of performance. So the ADR field is at times you'd call it a circle or a smaller field of overall practice, and it's one that largely works on a person's reputation and previous works. So because of that, you often find that when a person is being appointed either as an arbitrator, adjudicator, and even a mediator, or even as a party representative, people will tend to want to always go back to the people who have the reputation already existing in the ADR field and the people who have the experience already existing in the ADR field. So you can imagine it will always then be difficult for a young practitioner who may be months in, a year in, 2 years, 3 years, and sometimes even 4 or 5 years in to get that, to break in, get that recognition or get that appointment. So that's one of the challenges you find, breaking in, getting into this circle. How you overcome it, I think we've already discussed some of it, which is, we've said through finding a mentor who will mentor you, get you to the point where they feel, okay, now you're comfortable, you're ready to take up your role. But then through the mentorship, you then opened up to networking opportunities. And, all these things are intended to open you up to meeting a mentor, or perhaps, let's say, for example, you meet with a mentor. They mentor you for a while. And then next time around, they say, look, I have a 3-panel arbitration matter or a mediation adjudication. I would like you to sit as one of the wing arbitrators. So that gives you an opportunity to then break in and then start to participate and then build up your reputation. Obviously, another way in terms of how you can overcome that is through your qualifications. I think Amina has spoken at length about that in terms of the various modules you have available, Module 1, Module 2, Module 3. So that's moving you from associate to member to fellow. I think these all play a role in terms of helping you get recognition and a reputation. Because at times when someone is looking to appoint these arbitrator, adjudicator, sometimes it gives them that level of comfort that the person who's been referred to them is a fellow. Because then their understanding is that, fine, you may not have that year after year experience, but you have that ultimate final training, which confirms you as a fellow, or at the level of a member. So that gives a certain layer of comfort to the appointing persons. But then also, in as much as breaking in and getting in is a challenge, and we've mentioned how you can overcome it. The one thing I'd always like to mention is that it's a process. And I think this is one of the important things which, in hindsight, I've come to recognize and understand. And I think it's something which young practitioners should understand as well, is that it won't happen overnight. Okay? You are not going to become a fellow today and then get this big appointment tomorrow. It takes time. You have to start working your way from the bottom all the way to the top. And I think it's a natural progression, which is why, again, comes back to the issue of mentorship, sitting in an arbitration or adjudication so that you get that experience, so that when your turn now eventually comes, you're equipped for it. So it may not be in year 1, year 2, or year 3, but what you'll be doing in year 1, 2, and 3 is building up your exposure, your network, your skills, your experience, so that when year 3, 4 comes and then now you're given your appointment, you're ready to hit the ground and, you're just basically running through it. So patience is key, and, it definitely plays a big part. The last part I would say, Elizabeth, is which I do see as a possible challenge, is performance. And usually, so every now and then, a young arbitration practitioner may get an appointment early or along their practice. And what I always say is that, and this sort of falls similarly with the category sometimes you find the challenge women arbitrators find, is that when a young person or a woman arbitrator gets this appointment, you really have to work twice as hard as a normal experienced arbitrator, because then the focus is on you. And if you do mess it up, it's not just that, it's just an example. It's not just that Amina, the young arbitration practitioner, has failed. It's then going to be that, look, Amina is the young arbitration practitioner, she's failed. This is why we don't trust young arbitration practitioners. And so I always say to the young arbitration practitioners, and that includes me as well, whenever you get that appointment, you really have to work twice as hard. Get it over the line, get it done well, so that there is no stereotype or no coming back and saying, see, this is why we don't appoint young arbitrators. This is why we always go for the experienced ones. So when you get that opportunity, perform, exceed. That I think has to be one of the key considerations. And related to that is when you do get an appointment, have a look at it. If it's beyond your competence, at that point, you just simply decline, and you send it back, or you can then say, look, I am at this point where I am, I can't do this. I perhaps can refer to this other person, or I send it back, and maybe let me sit in and learn from this. Because there's nothing worse than taking up an appointment for which you have no qualifications, no experience, and then you mess it up. So I've seen in the past where some people have taken up construction adjudication, and you have no background in construction adjudication. Adjudication is a fast and rough process, and then you mess it up, and then you not only waste people's time, money, and resources, but then you also mess up your reputation, and people won't want to touch you going forward. So yeah, breaking in, setting yourself into the profession is a bit of a challenge, but I think we've discussed how you get around that. And maybe I just lastly add on that, another way of doing it is writing articles. So you could write articles on, for example, enforcement of an arbitration, maybe through your Supreme Court in your respective country. It's a big judgment, it's carries a lot of weight. You could write an article about it. Or generally, you could just write about arbitration in your jurisdiction. For example, I could partner with Amina, with Edgar, we write about arbitration. It's another way of putting ourselves out there and breaking into this, this field of ours. So yeah, and then again, lastly, performance. When you have the opportunity to perform, do it well, above and over, and then I think that would set you up good. So yeah, those would be my challenges and possible ways of overcoming them.
Thank you, Joseph, for that. And in your discussion, and also the prior discussions that we've been having, we've been looking at the fact that there are so many ADR professionals who are way above 40 and have been involved in the various arbitrations. They have vast experience and all that. So there are young ADR professionals who in their journey get the imposter syndrome or self-doubt that they can't actually perform these obligations during their appointments and all that. So I just have a question to Edgar on what strategies can the young members employ to manage such imposter syndrome and the self-doubt that they may experience in their journey?
That's a very interesting question. Imposter syndrome. The stone that the builders rejected, since clearly, I guess Amina will understand that being in the construction industry. When they reject you, or you, the thing about imposter syndrome is that really doesn't. It's not real. It is a real fear, but it isn't a quantifiable fear. In the sense, there's no cure to imposter syndrome. There's just accepting that we are all in this. And I think Joseph has really done justice on that, in the sense, there's no better cure than putting yourself out there. Imagine riding a bicycle. The first time you ride a bicycle, you fall a couple of times in the very beginning. But the more you do it, the better you get at it. You can't, you see, if you start, say, playing tennis today, you can't play tennis day one and go, raise the standard against, say, Roger Federer or someone of the sort. You have to give yourself the chance to grow to the position that Roger Federer is in it. So for imposter syndrome, what Joseph has said really is the solution. Put yourself out there and work with someone, as Amina said. Allow yourself, for instance, if I have an imposter syndrome about writing a paper, partner up with someone. You can just reach out to someone, then agree on writing on a specific topic, then write with that person. The more and more you do it, the easier it gets as it progresses. You get better at it. The first paper you write is not going to look like the 10th paper you write. Allow yourself to get better. There's something that Joseph said that I would like to allude to. one of the best ways of dealing with imposter syndrome is do not focus on the work per se. Focus on excellence in the work. Whatever little that you're doing or whatever big thing that you're doing, focus on being excellent in it. Allow yourself to get good at it. Learn at it. Go out there and get as much information as at it. Do not let go of your mentor. There are mentors that these days, in as much as you will have done something over and over again, there are people who they're always a call away. You always call a mentor and ask that I encountered such and such an issue in an arbitration. How will I navigate the situation? And the interesting bit is that even the most qualified arbitrator will still have an issue in some of the issues. I mean, sometimes they in fact ask you, how will you handle such a situation? In fact, the reason why I say Mr. Ngotho will reach out to Amina to assist him in an arbitration or in a mediation is that the presence of Amina in that boardroom or in that arbitration sort of makes it easier for him to basically articulate the issues that he needs to articulate as an arbitrator. So basically, when you're really focused on the excellence in the work, and the more you allow yourself to get experience, don't raise arbitrary standards against yourself. Bet against yourself. In reality, we are all afraid. But you have to start, and you start from somewhere, and you allow yourself to just grow in those specific areas. And the more you get skilled at it, the more you basically get over the fears that may come with being surrounded by possibly people you may think are more experienced than you. The more you do it, the easier it gets. That's what I'd say. Do immerse yourself in places that you would not necessarily immerse yourself in. The quote that goes, you will still miss 100% of the shots that you do not take. So take the shots either way. The worst that can happen is that we laugh at you, but then you took the shot, but we won't laugh at you. We are good people in this group. We won't laugh at you or anything, but just put yourself out there. Allow yourself to fail. I think that's the other thing. Allow yourself to not be good at something. Allow yourself to get good at it. As you sort of grow in it, it gets easier for you. And do not miss a shot purely because you're afraid. Work with someone. Talk to someone. If you're afraid of writing a paper, that's the very thing that you're supposed to be doing. Write that paper. If genuinely, like at the beginning, we were talking about personally for me, I remember I used to be so afraid on how to handle arbitrations. And in fact, Joseph alluded to it. I reached out to John Ohaga. John Ohaga is one of the really good mentors we have in Kenya here. It's just a simple email. It's a simple email of, could I kindly sit in an arbitration and observe how you handle your arbitrations? And so it's a simple, I will look into it, and he will send you a schedule of his arbitration, and you click whatever you are available for, and you attend the arbitration. And you see, at the end of the day, I think it is when you learn that your mentor is also still experiences challenges. I think sometimes being labeled as young has its own issues. When you're labeled as young, it sort of takes away the professionalism away from it. But the best thing is when you observe this seasoned practitioner doing it and still asking you for feedback, it gives you more confidence to sort of do it by yourself and allow yourself to also fail in the process. The satisfaction is in being excellent in the work, not that you got over the fear. It gets easier by time. But do not miss that shot purely because you're afraid. Reach out to people who can help. Write that paper that you're afraid of writing. Sit in that arbitration that you're afraid of sitting in. And after two or five arbitrations, it's gonna be easier to handle the imposter syndrome. I think that's how I can respond to the question you've asked, Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you so much, Edgar, for that. And I think what was quite interesting about that was the fact that you just have to do it. If you don't feel like writing the article, just write it. Just do it and get better at it. And so there's been an issue in respect to the cost of financing when it comes to learning, the different modes of ADR. That's the module 1, that's the introduction to arbitration, the various pathways that people take up. And there's been an issue of the costs are too high. So, Amina, would you just take us through how someone can, try and cater for the financing when it comes to taking up the different pathways.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Well, Edgar was giving his submission. I kept laughing because I'm also a victim of imposter syndrome. I remember one of my first assignments, my first appointment as an arbitrator. I turned it down. I didn't even look at the issue. I said, no, I can't. I'm not ready. And I remember I got a humble scolding from my mentor that what do you mean you cannot do it? So you just have to go and do it. I just wanted to add that. In terms of financing for your growth, it's a challenge most youth have right now. Truthfully, professional development is not cheap. It comes at a cost. And of course, we all appreciate the financial maybe challenges that people may face. But I just want to share my approach. Like I said, the different modules, you cannot proceed to another module without finishing one. I just want to encourage young members, whereas the fee is may be high or may seem to be high, but the rewards are much, much better, believe you me. So you can't target to have one module per year. Personally, that's the approach I used, target to do one module per year. When I started, I was doing with the CIAB Kenya chapter, and they have options of paying, I think, in installments. You can pay 2 installments, you pay towards the training. And then, of course, most of the papers, the exams for the different modules, you have to pay to CIAB directly. So they tell you how much you have to pay at the end of the module for the exam. So you also work, also plan for that exam fee, so that by the time the exam is scheduled, they always give you a calendar of when the exam is due. You're able to pay the fees to CIAB UK because you pay directly. So yes, sometimes when you share with people, these are the fees that you need, this is the money, they shy away, or they stop inboxing you, they stop asking you questions. But everything has to start from somewhere. And my ultimate reasoning is that right now it may seem expensive, but in 2 years' time, the cost is most likely to be higher. So the sooner you start, the better. So I just want to appreciate the challenges, yes, that youth have in terms of financing, but you have to look at it as your own investment. You're investing in yourself. And of course, without becoming a member, there are certain rooms you're not going to be able to open. Without starting, there's certain, even appointments, different appointments have different qualifications that come with them. So you need to invest in yourself. Just encouraging everyone here to start now. Thank you.
Thank you, Amina. And I'll just want to take this opportunity to thank our speakers for expounding on the various opportunities that are available for the young ADR professionals. We have really learned a lot from this session, and we do hope that we are able to take up whatever advice has been given to us. That includes the taking up mentorship from the arbitrators and other ADR professionals who are already in the field, the networking with the people who are already in the field, then also improving on our skills. So thank you so much once again to our speakers. And we just have one question in the chat room from Zizwani Mwale. And the question is, what should young arbitrators look out for? What are the specific things that are easily missed out by the young arbitrators? Joseph, could you enlighten us on that?
What is usually missed out on? I think maybe I'll go back and say the entire process of learning from stage 1 all the way to stage 100. Sometimes I think because we're young and we have so much energy, sometimes I think we're in a bit of a hurry. So sometimes we do miss out on the actual smaller steps on the way to the final point. Yeah, sort of. So I would say we do tend to want to move a little too fast, and then we miss a few of the steps. We want certain things before we're ready. So yeah, I would say in a way.
Thank you, Joseph. Amina, would you like to enlighten us on that too?
Well, it will not fall so far from what Joseph has said, but I want to talk about being an arbitrator and being on a panel. When Edgar shared, like sometimes when people finish the modules, they're quickly looking, or they're looking at being appointed as fast as possible. I don't know if it was Edgar or Joseph, but it's take your time. Don't be in a rush. And also when you finish your modules, there are different organizations that or umbrellas for ADR. Like for example, I know CIAB has Kenya has there's a Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, of course, Kenya. There's another, I think, sorry, I don't want to confuse the names, but let me say Uganda. Uganda, we have CADA, we have ICAMEC. We also have Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. Uganda, we have there's Resolve 360 and other organizations. Now, when you finish you apply to the different organizations to be enlisted as a panelist. For example, I would apply to ICAMEC, I'd apply to CADA, which CADA is Center for Alternative Dispute Resolution. It's recognized in the Act, in the Arbitration and Conciliation Act. So you apply, and once you apply, the fees you pay, and you're enlisted as a panelist. Now, once you're enlisted as a panelist, in the event that a contract specifies that in the event of a dispute, the arbitrator will be appointed by, let's say, ICAMEC, which is the International Center for Arbitration and Mediation, Kampala. Then once that is embodied in the act or within the contract provision, then the parties to the contract, upon having a dispute, will write to ICAMEC to appoint an arbitrator. Now, if you're not within the panelists listed within ICAMEC, then you lose out a chance. Then at the same case as CADA, same case as Chartered Institute of Arbitrators Uganda chapter, same case as, let's say, some construction contracts specify appointments from, they say we have the DAB, but also they specify appointments from the engineering association, or they say or from the architects association. So you need to enlist yourself as an arbitrator or as a competent arbitrator with the different bodies or the different associations that fall within that area of expertise. Yeah, so that's something that may be missed out, but of course, as you go on in terms of mentoring and networking with other people, you get to know. But recognized by other chapters. But if you don't register yourself with other recognized bodies, for example, in Uganda, like ICAMEC or CADA, being ultimately lucrative, and at the same time, you are competent enough to take on such an appointment. Yeah, that's what I have to share.
Okay, thank you so much, Amina. And we have another question from Dafin Sagao, and they're asking what mentorship opportunities are there for young ADR professionals, specifically in Uganda? So for that, we'll be able to share the internship opportunities that are available on our social media platforms. Just take a look out for those, then we'll just let you know on that. So we've come to the end of our session. We just want to thank the speakers, the participants, and we hope that you found this webinar informative and insightful. And we do hope that a recording of this session is made available, and resources will be shared on our social media platforms. And before we close, we just wanted to let you know that you may sign up for any of our pathway trainings using the links that have been provided in the chat room. That's for the accelerated route to membership and also the introduction to arbitration course. In case of any further details, you can reach out to our offices. The administrator is Bridget, and we'll be able to share any other information. Thank you so much for attending this webinar.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, the panelists.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.